We've seen a strong response from the EU in recent days, with sanctions being imposed on the Kremlin and on those who support the Kremlin. How, in your view, can we explain this hardened reaction?
Well, look, any country, the EU, United States, and any nation who believes in international norms and post World War II security is definitely more united after witnessing the atrocities over the past 2 weeks. Europe understands the danger of what is unfolding in Ukraine because this is the first full scale invasion of a sovereign nation on European soil since World War II. And then the videos of all the refugees who, are fleeing Ukraine, and on top of it, the intentional targeting of civilians in Ukraine are definitely triggering memories in Europe, of World War II.
Has Brussels, though, done enough to target Russia to try and end this violence? And what other cards does the EU have left to play?
They definitely need to increase weapons supply while there is a chance to get weapons to Ukraine before Russia closes the routes. They need to increase intel sharing, real time intel sharing. They also need to seize all Kremlin associated assets and squeeze anybody who is linked to the Kremlin.
Now, many have been saying that these sanctions aren't necessarily legal. What legal framework or mechanism is in place in Brussels at the EU to impose these financial punishments?
Well, I mean, right now, Russia is committing genocide on the world stage. A lot of Putin's money is via his oligarchs and, through a various network of shell companies. So it is absolutely legal to seize assets that are to the Kremlin, and Putin really should. I mean, I know the International Criminal Court has opened an investigation for war crimes, and Putin should be charged with war crimes along with everyone who, is participating in this. Because what we're seeing is, I mean, surreal.
This is a conflict, as I was saying earlier, that's now entering an 11th day on the ground in Ukraine. But as you were hinting a little earlier, regional tensions have been simmering for much longer. Should and could the West have listened earlier and done more earlier?
Absolutely. Look, Russia invaded Georgia in 2008. They committed one of the biggest cyber attacks on Estonia in 2007. They invaded and annexed Crimea in 2014 and have been conducting a daily war in Ukraine for the past 8 years. All the Eastern European countries have tried to warn United States, Germany, France of what Russia is doing because Russia tested all their, hybrid warfare tactics on Russia's neighbors. So, I mean, they definitely should have listened. They definitely should have done more. And we see how quickly the mechanisms are in place to deal with Russia. And had we done it earlier, we would have never been at this point right now.
I want to talk briefly now about the humanitarian situation. This is a conflict that's, of course, triggered a massive refugee crisis. But compared to the war in Syria, when member states across Europe were divided about who should take in who and how many and how, is the bloc more united this time around?
They are more united. Right now, you see, all the countries across Europe opening their doors to Ukrainians, even meeting them at the border of Ukraine and, offering every kind of assistance from children's like diapers and everything to housing to food. So definitely right now, I mean, this is a war on European soil. And, we are watching the carpet bombings of cities on European soil. So Europe is definitely very united in trying to assist every single way they can, to to Ukrainians fleeing this horrific war.
Now, after Friday's emergency meeting of NATO leaders, the alliance rejected a Ukrainian request for no-fly zones to be introduced, citing that it has concerns that such a move could lead to this war spreading further and involving more countries. What do you make of that NATO decision?
I disagree with the NATO decision because, we are still treating this in the framework that we are not involved in the war. We are involved in the war. This is a genocide occurring on European soil, playing out on social media. And we saw Russia softly annex Belarus. They've had this military strategy of first taking Belarus, then going to Ukraine. Moldova is part of their strategy. They've over recent months have been on, had numerous propaganda of taking Lithuania on their Russian state media. So, I mean, this will spill over into Europe, and eventually Europe will be dragged in. And the only thing is that at least now we can prevent all these civilian deaths, which the UN has put at 350. I mean, it is clearly, judging from the pictures, a much, much higher death toll, than what is being reported.
Okay, Olga Lautman in New York. That's all we have time for, but thank you so much for joining us here on France
Thank you.
24. Thank you.